Welcome to Golden Mastermind Seminars Radio with your host, Jeffrey Combs.
Jeffrey Combs, good to be here with you on 2 for Tuesday. And the topic for today's Facebook Live on Golden Mastermind podcast is breathe, release, and let go. It's a very, very common topic that I cover, letting go. I've covered it in the thousands of times in my career. So it's awesome to be here with you on a breathe, release, and let go Tuesday. Diane, so good to see you this afternoon. And I'm going to cover the topic. I actually coined this, breathe, release, and let go in a relaxed body. As I look back over the course of my social media career, which goes back to 2009, and I look back over the posts daily through memories, I consistently was writing about the topic of letting go. Letting go is, for me, is anchored in the 12-step programs, and so I brought this today. I brought this book, Letting Go, to the Facebook or to the podcast today, and I also brought my original book, which really was the beginning of letting go for me. This is called 12 Steps and 12 Traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous, and it's a book that I have been through many, many times. The spine is broken in the book, and some of the pages virtually, as you can see right here, have fallen apart. So that means that's how many times I've used it. And this is the original book I bought in December of 1988 in my early sobriety, the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, which is where I began anchoring myself in the skill of letting go. Letting go is a specific skill, and there's a mechanism to it. And in that mechanism of letting go, what I learned myself and what I've been teaching is that there's a separation between the feelings and the events that shape them that allow you to let go as it allows me to let go. So when I feel angry, when I feel overwhelmed, when I feel apathy, when I feel any emotion, I'm able to accept the emotion, I'm able to observe the situation, breathe, release, and let go, and I can create that separation. Many people are confused when it comes to letting go, and they go, how do I let go? How do I let go? And then they just keep recreating the same situation over and over. Letting go is a specific skill that requires discipline. It requires understanding. It requires practice. And this book right here in chapter 2 will assist you to understand that there's a mechanism to letting go. So the mechanism would be the inner guts of the lock. So in that mechanism, there would be a tumbler. There would be a place where the key would go in, and then you would turn it, and then the lock releases. The lock springs. In a master lock, it's turned right a number of times, left a number of times, and then one turn back right, and then you hear the thunk in the lock, and you hear the clunk, and what that means is a set of tumblers have lined up. So letting go is that alignment. As you begin to master the skill of letting go, you will start to regulate your emotions differently. Now, very few people ever practice letting go their entire life. The people who coach with me, I teach it to them, and then they can teach it to themselves, and they can teach it to others. It's a very, very deep skill that when mastered, what you're mastering are your emotions. And the emotions that you're mastering are your anxiety, fear, and doubt. And it's anxiety, fear, and doubt driven by the emotions of anger, hate, resentment, guilt, shame, abandonment, rejection, overwhelmed feelings, grief, apathy, and pride. And those are the main emotions that will take you into anxiety, fear, and specifically doubt. And as you have a better understanding of the cause that creates the effect of why you do what you do, now you can start to regulate yourself and create the separation. The body will go into fight or flight in an automatic reaction. Tomas, good to see you this afternoon. It's awesome to hear. Say hello to Zarek and say hello to Diane. So it's good to be here. I know that Zarek, you and Tomas have met, and Diane, say hello to Zarek and Tomas. And for both you gentlemen, Diane has been a longtime client of mine, 11-year client. So if you're just joining me today, I'm covering the breathe, release, and let go. Now, when I coach Tomas, he says it frequently. He's a relatively new client. He's on this journey. He's learning how to let go. And like all of us, the ego kicks in and wants to be right. The ego wants to fight. The ego wants to be in control. The ego has to have something to do. The ego is the restless component of your analytical egoic mind. It's the brain that has to be stimulated. That's why it's challenging for most of society to be able to meditate, because they can't let go. True meditation is the ability to be able to be in a state of nothing. And that nothing state of nothing is that it's nothing. You're able to lay down, you're able to relax, you're able to be on a couch, a carpeted floor, any multitude of situations, and you're able to let go. You're able to separate your feelings from the events that shape them. And it's that skill of letting go that will allow you to be able to separate your ego, your analytical egoic mind that wants to justify, validate, explain itself, that wants to be right, that reacts automatically into that defense mechanism of explaining. And this is you. This is a great day to begin this process of letting go. Jared, good to see you this afternoon. Jared is a longtime client. I've had the privilege of coaching many years, and he's attended many of my events. The topic for today's Facebook Live, which podcast, Golden Mastermind podcast, is breathe, release, and let go. That's the sequence, and then it's followed. This is the finish of the affirmation, in a relaxed body. Now that becomes an affirmation that you can use 7 days a week. And I say it every single day. Breathe, release, and let go in a relaxed body. The more that you say that, you're affirming. You're telling yourself, I'm breathing, I'm releasing, and I'm letting go. Most of society lives in a very short breath cycle in fight or flight. It means they hold their breath. They begin holding their breath as children through 4 different levels of trauma: sexual, physical, emotional, and then the critical trauma, or being criticized, generational trauma. So it's critical, generational, physical, and emotional. Any 1 or 4 of the combination of these traumas will keep your body in levels of fight or flight. You'll meet people who they live in fight or flight. They live in adrenaline and they live in cortisol. They wait for the shoe to drop. They're constantly in conflict. I know that many of you have had jobs and careers where you're working next to someone, or you're in a circle of influence with someone that is a drama addict. Or you've had people in your family, or perhaps you dated someone, or you know a narcissist, someone who chronically gaslights people, and if you've been gaslighted by them, you understand the brunt of what it feels. This is why it's so important to be able to breathe, release, and let go. So if you're in a hostile environment, in a relationship and a job, and you're in the process of the exit strategy, and you're not able to quit today or get a divorce tomorrow, I mean, it's important that you, while this is going on, you're able to neutralize that narcissist, you neutralize the enemy, neutralize the ego of other people, and that's a state called non-attachment. And to be non-attached is definitely a breathe, release, and let go skill set so that you can stay in your relaxed body. The relaxed body allows you to be present. It allows you to still be productive. It allows you to still be able to prospect and do a business. If you don't know how to regulate yourself, you'll encounter adversity and then go into anger mode or shutdown mode. Either one of them is ineffective. So when you face adversity, it's important that you have emotional resilience. And that's the breathe, release, and let go component as you're no longer the mind-body connection to the lower self that would get overwhelmed. So in an overwhelmed state, you can lose your composure. You can say things that you don't really want to say. You can say things that you don't mean. And you can create controversy and conflict and sabotage because you don't have the ability to let go. If you keep recreating the same situation, you'll continue to attract the same situation to your circle of influence over and over. And that's what fulfills the neurochemical craving of being emotionally addicted to a set of feelings. Now, this came out today This came out in email today. It goes out every Tuesday, and it comes out on Facebook on Monday. So topic 1 is anxiety, fear, and doubt. That's what I'm covering. Anxiety, fear, and doubt is a byproduct of unresolved issues. It's a byproduct of the events that shaped your feelings as you grew up in. And fight or flight is the main situation that you want to be able to address, because fight or flight is the autonomic reaction to stimulus. It means your body's going from 0 to 100 without you knowing it, and all of a sudden you're being critical, you're being negative, you're being judgmental, and you don't even know you're doing it. And then what you end up doing is you become a chronic complainer. And in that state of consciousness, you're vibrating and transmuting for a very low level of emotional energy. And that energy is anger-based and typically resentment-based. So that means that you're casting your burden, your own burden. It's what you telepathically are sending through universe, and it's a very short cycle of energy. So you're attracting people in your circle of influence who will violate you, you can be in conflict with, that you can be angry at, and you can single people out: your husband, your wife, your children, your boss, your significant other, the waiter, the waitress. And then you can justify and go into "this always happens to me." And if it always happens to you, it's because you unconsciously expect and consciously expect to be in this conflict. And then as you become conflict conscious, which is driven by different levels of anger, you're going to create situations to be and stay angry, which then that's how most of the planet lives. And the agenda that you see right now, that's what they do. They create a divide. They create sides. It's black and white. It's right and wrong. It's good and bad. It's division at its finest. And that's why you see people in England today rioting over the digital ID, because it's being forced on us. And force is what we encounter. And so in force, it's important you be in your power. And to do that, it's important that you breathe, release, and let go, and you access your power. Your power is non-physical. It's not linear. Your power is emotional. And your power to be able to let go is one of the most important skills that you master. Because if you don't, you'll be resentful. You'll be angry. You'll be in conflict, and you'll just recreate the same situations. You'll recreate the trauma that you were groomed in and traumatized in over and over to fulfill your feelings. As you have a better understanding of why you do what you do, you can create the separation. That means instead of being the experience and experiencing the experience, you can observe it. And as you're the observer, not the participant, now you're creating the separation. This changes the neurological network of neurons that wire and fire. Instead of being 0 to 100 and angry, all of a sudden you're now in peace and you're able to let go. You're able to not let it affect you the way you used to. And you don't have to be right and get in the ring with people. You don't have to call them out. You don't have to make a phone call. You're able to just realize that the pleasure isn't worth the pain. The juice isn't worth the squeeze. It isn't worth the conflict. And as you let go of being right, being righteous, and being in conflict, you're changing the whole energy field around you. You're creating a space called allow, and it's that allow space that you're creating. It's called the vacuum law of prosperity. It's like you vacuumed it all out. You created the space for people to find you. You created the opening, the portal of higher consciousness. You're accessing your higher good. You're surrendering to your lower self. You're being able to be in a state of non-resistance. And so as you let go of this anxiety you hold on to, this is how you change who and what you attract. People ask me daily, how do I change who and what I attract? The first situation when it comes to attraction is understanding it's a skill. And then it's important that you're rigorously honest about your childhood. But if you're in the brain fog of your childhood and you tell yourself you had a good childhood or you don't remember your childhood, well, the reason your childhood's important is because the time you're 18, your personality is a byproduct of your personal reality. The home you grew up in, the school system you went to, all of this is a component. The taunting, the hazing that you experienced in grade school, junior high. You may have gotten held back by a grade. You were told you were a slow learner. You were groomed that you had ADD, ADHD. You were conditioned that you weren't smart. Then you start to develop what's called performance anxiety. And you have challenges with test taking, with reading, and getting singled out. And then all of a sudden, in the third grade, You're put with slower learners. Now you're labeled, and that label can follow you around the whole life. I'm not a good reader. I'm not good at this. I'm not good at math. This becomes a reality. It doesn't have to be a reality because the math you require is right here. It's a calculator. That's the only math you require to own a business. You don't require calculus. You don't require trigonometry. You don't require any of that. You require this right here, an old school calculator. And it's simple multiplication and duplication. It's checkbook content. It's how to figure out the numbers. It's how to do your taxes. I mean, it's simple arithmetic. This isn't overwhelming or complicated. That's how most people complicate simplicity so they can avoid and procrastinate. And this is why breathing, releasing, and letting go is a skill that you can monetize. I mean, it's absolutely, you can take it to the next level. Susan, thank you for joining me this afternoon. Susan Kuhn-Smith is a professional businesswoman that I'm honored to coach. So is Diane Hunt. They're both professionals in the network marketing and direct sales industry, and I highly endorse both of them, as I highly endorse all of you on today's Facebook Live. Tom Nash has been my client since 2000. Tom hired me back in the day in a company called The Tax People, and I've been coaching Tom for multiple years. He's also a very successful business owner in the advertised marketing space in St. Louis, Missouri, and the east part of St. Louis in Illinois, in Granite City, Illinois. Mike Green's followed me for years. Zarek just started coaching with me almost a year ago. Many of you have been following me for many, many years. Thank you very much. I'm deeply, deeply honored to be here with you this afternoon. Jeff Cregan's been following me just recently. Thank you very much. Referred by Zach Pazanza. So all of you here, I'm deeply grateful. I was just coaching a man earlier this morning. Jared's been with me for multiple years. And Bob, thank you for following me. Bob's been my client for years. Aaron's followed me for years. So all of you are here this afternoon. I was coaching a man today, leading him to be grateful. I asked him to write down on a sheet of paper what he's grateful for today. So if you haven't done this, do it at some point. Put down 5 to 7 items that you're grateful for. I told him my number one great gratitude was to be sober. Sobriety saved my life. And it's this book right here that put me on the path of letting go. For those of you who just joined me, earlier in the Facebook Live, I brought this book right here. This is my original 12-step book called 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. I bought this book in December of 1988. 1988, yes, that back then. And I paid $10 for this book, and I bought it at the commissary. And so this book has been with me for all this time. Now look at this book. The spine is broken of this book, as you can see, because I've used it so many times, and the pages are falling out of it. This was the first book that allowed me to learn to let go. And right here, I wrote this in 1988. See this right here? It says, let go, let God. That's the first time I'd ever even accepted God. And it says, surrender brings you victory. And so that's the first time right there. That's the first time I ever in ink wrote down the first 2 words of letting go. That was December of 1988. And I've never forgotten this book. So back in that era, I was with 26 men and women in it was a county hospital in Ceres, California, Ceres, which is right outside of Modesto, California. And I was in a free heroin alcohol clinic, and we had roll-up beds, and I'm one of the only few people that made it out alive. Most of the people quit in the first week. I made it through the first 26 days, and 4+ days I was on Demerol just to let go of all the anxiety that I was in. I was also experiencing delirium tremens, if you know what that is. Andia knows what that means. So Andia Ray just put here, good old 12 and 12, so she understands the culture of it. This is called 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. And this is where I learned to let go and let God. It's where I learned to surrender. It's where I learned to take a moral inventory of myself. It's where I learned step 8, forgiveness, and making amends in step 9, to make the amends to people and not to make it in person because it might hurt them or might hurt me, because mostly the things I'd done to them along with what they'd done to me. and that was a deep level of forgiveness. So the 12 steps and 12 traditions were where I began to really learn to let go. This book entered into my life in around 2012, the book Letting Go. This is one of multiple copies I've owned. Once again, this book is falling apart because I've used it so much. I've memorized most of the pages, the content, and I've reread it and reread it and reread it. Letting go broken down is so it's personal, it's my ability to separate my feelings from the events that shaped my anxiety, fear, and doubt, driven by the emotions of anger, hate, resentment, guilt, shame, abandonment, rejection, overwhelmed feelings, grief, apathy, and pride. Those are the main emotions that will keep you in your doubt. Doubt is the biggest deterrent to your success. Doubt is the biggest deterrent to your relationships. Doubt is the biggest deterrent to being able to create the money. Doubt will keep you in a state of fear and faith. Doubt is the duality. And this is what so many people live in. They doubt themselves, and then that doubt that they cast is a low vibrational energy attracting to the reality other like-minded doubters. And good afternoon, Ashley. Always good to see you. Rachel, so honored to have you here. Andy, thank you for joining me late here on the Facebook Live. Breathe, release, and let go. When you are no longer, this is a Louise Hay quote. I started reading Louise Hay at the exact same time that I started reading this book. The two books that I read over and over early in my sobriety was You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay from Hay House Publishing and 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. It's also referred to as 12 and 12. And I read those books frequently, and that's where I learned mind-body conditioned. And Greg Woolley's joined me. He said that's where I learned to rest in the sunlight of the Spirit. Thank you, Greg. For those of you who want to follow Greg, I highly endorse him. He's a poet. He's the poet laureate of Golden Mastermind Seminars Incorporated, and he graces me with some just amazing poetry. Greg, we would be honored if you could write a poem for us today based on what's happening today. If you could, you can share it on my wall and people will find it. Greg is a top-tier poet in his own level, a high level of recovery with a lot of time in the program, and is an amazing teacher of the 12 steps and 12 traditions. So breathe, release, and let go. So the breath is a long breath cycle. It's up and out. So you bring the breath up from the abdomen, which puts you in your core. You bring it up, you release it, and you follow it with the word release. Now you're re-educating your expectations. You're training your body to let go. The body that holds on to fight or flight will recreate the same situation to fulfill the same set of feelings until there's an interruption pattern created. The interruption pattern, you're interrupting fight or flight. The body will autonomically react to stimulus until you start to train it to let go. So what happens is the amygdala, the pea-sized gland, enlarges. The hippocampus, which is back here, and the prefrontal cortex both enlarge. And so when that happens, now you have brain fog. You're not crazy. What you have is long-term fight or flight, when the body is holding on to trauma that is unresolved. As you have a better understanding, you practice the skill of letting go. You're letting people go. You're letting situations go. And you're doing it free of guilt. You can't let go in guilt because now you're in denial. You're holding on to the same set of circumstances and story to be in the duality, the contradiction. That's the black, white, right, wrong, good, bad, parity duality that the governments of the world create and that most of the world lives in. When you're skilled at breathing, releasing, and letting go, you're creating the separation. And the separation is what allows you to change the wiring. You're not rewired. So you don't want to rewire. That's putting the same circuits over the same wires. What you're doing is wiring, and you're wiring from love. You're wiring in joy. You're wiring in peace. You're wiring in belief, trust, truth, understanding, and inner knowing. And in that wiring, now you're opening yourself up, and the brain wave that goes like this, which is theta and beta. This is theta, this is beta, this is gamma. Now, when you're in this gamma brainwave state, it's like this. You're fluid, it's constant, it's steady, and the body begins to secrete a different neurochemical called DMT, dimethyltryptamine. And so that's the feel-good factor. And in that feel-good factor, you don't get upset when the plane is late. You don't find yourself losing it. I'm a recovering loser. I would lose it frequently. Even in my sobriety, I could go from 0 to 160 in a heartbeat because I was still living on, I was an adrenaline junkie, still living on that junk that allowed me to be in so much hypertension as an addict. And that was the fight or flight, the teeth ground, I ground my teeth, clenched my teeth, and then created migraine headaches for a number of years. Breathe, release, and let go. My name is Jeffery Combs, president and founder, Golden Mastermind Seminars Incorporated. If you'd like to contact me regarding my one-on-one coaching, I would be honored to speak with you. Breathe, release, and let go. Have a great afternoon.